Hi everybody, it's me, Corrie T, and in this video I'm going to do a shorter version of how I manifested my pregnancy, because the last one I did was an hour long, and for those of you who just like to watch short videos, I'm just going to do this really quickly, as quick as I can, because there's a lot to say, so that you can get the headlines, the top things that I did, and it's easier to digest. So before I jump into this video, I just want to remind you that my Conscious Creators Masters Academy, my favourite program that I run, which is a 12-week program for anyone who's really looking to transform from the inside out and become a master at your own conscious creation. It's a really high level manifestation course for anyone who really wants to dive deeper into themselves. You'll have so many light bulb moments, witness other people having light bulb moments, and really build an amazing connection so that this journey of manifesting whatever it is that you want to manifest is not so lonely. And actually, connection is one of the most healing things that we can do on our journey to becoming the person that we want to be. So if you would like to know any more about that, you can find out some more information on my website, or you can book a free 30-minute call with me where we can talk about you, where you're at. I can tell you more about the program, how it works, and what to expect, so that we can find out if this program is right for you. And I would love to speak to you and get to know you. So if you'd like to do that, then send me an email or a direct message on Instagram and we will sort that out. I'm also doing one-to-one coaching. You can book 1 hour or 3 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours. It's up to you, however much you want to invest in yourself. And you can find all of that information on my website. Right, so how did I manifest this pregnancy? Right, the first thing is that I really think that it started like a long time ago. It started almost instantly. When I met my partner, I just had this feeling that it wasn't hard to create. I just had a feeling like this person was going to be in my life for a long time. And it was a natural feeling that I felt very strongly, but didn't do anything and couldn't do anything about it at the time. As lots of you know, long story short, our journey has been 9 years long as of right now. So there's been lots of, opportunities where we nearly got together and then we didn't. Lots of times where it looked like we were going to be together and then we weren't. And so there was always this feeling that there was something unfinished. And I think, honestly, the manifestation of the pregnancy kind of began before we were even officially together, because I kept imagining it and I didn't try to imagine it. I wasn't actually consciously really trying to manifest a pregnancy, but I just kind of kept thinking about it in the background every now and then. And it wasn't like an obsessive thing, it just happened every now and then. So flash forward years later, and lots of time has gone by, and now we are seeing each other, and it's not the time where we actually end up together. I started to feel even more sure about that feeling of feeling like I wanted to create this family with this person. I started imagining it, and it started with those visualizations of imagining myself with a baby. And I remember once his sister had a baby years ago, and I was holding the baby. It was a newborn baby, and I remember people saying, "Really suits you holding a baby." And I remember feeling like, oh, I'm a mum. And I started to think of myself as a mother, which I'd never really done before. I wasn't really sure about. I wasn't really sure 100% if I actually wanted to be a mum, but it was something that I was kind of toying with the idea of, maybe I'm a mum. And people actually started saying it to me. People started saying, you'd be a really good mum. And I just kind of went, oh, that's nice, and then carried on with my day. But then, a couple more years later, and we're seeing each other again. Again, this was the time just before he went to Korea, so we weren't officially going to be in a relationship, but I really started thinking about it then. And I remember walking around his garden. Imagining, really visualizing, holding my child's hand, walking around that garden and thinking, I know I'm going to come back here and do this. So visualization was a really, really big part of my creation of this pregnancy. And I think creating a pregnancy is really the same as creating anything else. It's creativity. We're just using and playing with the universe, playing with creativity. And I really love visualization. It's one of the things that I do the most. So I was visualizing me walking around. I was talking about it to my best friend, and I was, really starting to that's when I started to talk to my spirit babies, right? So I actually started to say to my spirit babies, when you want to come, it's going to be okay, and I'm going to be here. And I started to build this connection with spirit babies. And I remember having some time on my own and having this really powerful moment on my own where I actually felt like this energy of my spirit baby was in the room with me, and it brought me to tears. And I was like, whoa, this feels so real. And it was, you know, obviously just started with thoughts that I'd been thinking, but that connection to, you know, source and to my spirit babies was something that I kept calling on. The other thing was that I asked for a sign. Many of you know this story. I asked for a sign, which was sunflowers. The first thing that came to my head was sunflowers. Actually, it wasn't the first thing that came to my head. I just asked for a sign, and then I saw a picture of a sunflower as I was walking through the village. And I remember thinking, oh, sunflowers, that's my fertility sign. And, you know, fertility, because I'd been told I had polycystic ovaries and I might find it difficult to have a baby. And I honestly just really didn't know if it was possible for me to even get pregnant, because I've been told that it might be hard, and I really had this idea that it was going to be difficult. Those times, I think it was 2020 actually, where we were together but not really together, and I was thinking about this a lot, and I was imagining it, and I would actually talk to his mum about it and everything. I was like really sure that that's what I wanted. And seeing sunflowers everywhere. At the end of that 5 weeks together, I realised that I was actually pregnant. And all of those sunflowers that I'd seen really confirmed that sunflowers were a sign to me. And I unfortunately had a miscarriage a couple of weeks later. And that was a really difficult time, but it was also a time where I was amazed that and so shocked that I actually had got pregnant, and I was so grateful that I'd been shown, you can do this. This is possible for you. You can actually get pregnant and you don't need to worry about that. And I started changing my mindset about my body, about what was possible for my body. And this was a really important thing, because I started thinking about my body differently. Because I'd spent years thinking that it just wasn't going to be easy, or it wasn't going to be possible for me to have a baby, and that maybe it just wasn't meant for me. And when I realised that I was pregnant that time in 2020, I really did think, wow, that's a sign that I've got it wrong. I can get pregnant. And I started thinking very differently, like I said, about my body in a more positive way. And it gave me a lot of hope, which made me feel a lot better. But then we were not together. We were not together for nearly a year. And in that time, I got on with my life. I did other things. I had fun. I was just kind of being as free as I could be. And obviously, you know the story. I was in Italy and I was thinking about it a lot and I was obsessing about it. But then when I broke free of that obsession, I was just having fun, having an experience in Italy. And I kind of let go quite a lot of manifesting that relationship. Long story short, we ended up back together, and we both really wanted to have a baby. And this was new because Johnny previously had always been like, oh, I'm not ready, we'll do that years down the line, we need to be really careful, and all of this kind of stuff, which was fair enough because we actually weren't ready before that. And yeah, but this time we were both kind of recklessly like, whatever, let's just see what happens. And so this led to us, about 3 months later, and I was really visualizing it a lot, and I was imagining it, and we were talking about it, and all of these things, and there was lots of signs of sunflowers everywhere. And then I got pregnant again, and that also ended in a miscarriage. This happened 3 more times, so I had 4 miscarriages, and all of these times were kind of fairly unexpected because my cycle was like all over the place, and it was really, really long cycles. But then this kind of set me back because I was thinking, oh, well, I was starting to feel really positive about my body, but now I'm like, why can't I hold a pregnancy? What's wrong with me? And I started thinking that. And that was kind of worrying. And what I did was I sought out as much support as I could by going to fertility specialists. And looking back, I was really telling myself there's something wrong with you and this is going to be difficult, and so you need to spend loads of money and you need to, all of these things I was doing because I was in fear that it would never happen for me. And actually those appointments that I had with fertility specialists were good because they did actually give me reassurance in that they really couldn't find anything wrong with me other than my polycystic ovaries, and they couldn't find anything wrong with Johnny either. And it was just, a matter of, sometimes this happens, sometimes miscarriage happens. So I decided to not see it as something that was going to prevent me in the future from having a baby. But, if you've ever had a miscarriage, then you'll know that it's quite hard to do that when you don't have the evidence and you don't have the proof that that it's going to happen. So I had to overcome that and just kind of trust. I did get to the point where I started to think maybe it won't happen for me, which was also part of the letting go process, letting go of needing it and wanting it and, really being dependent on it happening, and started to get okay with maybe it won't happen. And it, looking back, was kind of a bit of a sad journey to getting there because I'd had a lot of disappointment and I'd, felt disheartened by the miscarriages. But actually it was also part of the process, and the universe works in funny ways, and it really helped me to be more relaxed about the whole thing and to let go. And the other thing that I did that I forgot to mention was that before we were even together, just before we got together, I walked through a field near where I live, and I remember really doing a really powerful, strong visualization of me being pregnant and me feeling like Johnny was there with me, and just imagining that the sun was shining on me and believing that that was happening, and really imagining it like a living in the end scenario. And, I didn't do these things all the time. I didn't walk around for months on end like doing these things. I just did them as and when I felt like it. But this was before we were even together. And the cool thing is that a few weeks ago, me and Johnny walked in that field, and obviously I'm pregnant, and we literally lived exactly what I had imagined. And so it's one of those moments where you're like, wow, I really did create this in my mind before it actually happened. And yeah, it's crazy when I think about things like that. So the other thing that I used to imagine was Johnny like squeezing my hand in the pregnancy scan. And every time I went for like a checkup or something, I would imagine that he was there and that it was actually a checkup for a pregnancy. And, I'd really take those like scenes where I was in an environment that looked like I was in a pregnancy scan as an opportunity to like visualize it happening in the future. So I did that as well. And the other thing that I imagined, which hasn't happened yet, but I will take a photo and I will post it when it does, is I used to really imagine sitting around at Christmas time with my baby at Johnny's family's house, and his mum saying to me something like, I told you, because she always said to me as well, like, this is going to happen for you, and one day we're going to be sitting here and we're going to be talking about all the times where you really doubted and worried that this wouldn't happen, and you're going to have your baby and it's all going to be okay. So those conversations with people who believe in you and people who give you these positive ideas and positive encouragement, like, of course this is going to happen for you, really like made me feel better. And so I really embraced those conversations as well. And then the next thing that happened was that, honestly, I think that I had let go so much to the point where I wasn't even sure if I actually even wanted to do this anymore. I was so, I think, exhausted maybe by the miscarriages. I wasn't actually in a very good space in my life whenever we did actually get pregnant. And I was just sort of thinking, right, I really want to focus on myself. So everything that I did at that time, I was doing for myself. What I also wanted to do for myself was freeze my eggs. And you might have heard me talk about that in videos and on Instagram before. And actually in the last video that me and Johnny did together, I was pregnant, but we hadn't told you yet. And we were going for some scans and things to make sure everything was okay. And we just didn't know what was going on. But basically I was pregnant then. And yeah, it was just early days. So I was like sure that I was going to freeze my eggs, and that was going to be my assurance. I was doing that for me. I was doing that so that I could say that, there's a possibility this is going to happen in the future. I'm going to trust my body. I'm going to trust timing. I'm going to hand this over to the spirit babies and say, come when you want to come. And I actually said, look, I obviously don't have control over when you want to come here, so I'm not going to try, but I am going to say that whenever you want to come, you're welcome to come, and I'll be here and I'll love you. And so I did that, and that felt good, to just hand it over to a higher power and to trusting my baby more than myself, actually, you know, which is sometimes hard to do when you really want control and you really want to know that it's definitely going to happen. So I was doing things because I was, you know, planning to do this IVF cycle. I was doing things to look after my body, and I was living as someone who was intending to be pregnant, basically, and embodying someone who was looking after their body and embodying someone who believed in healing their body as well. And I was eating differently, and I was following a book called It Starts With the Egg, which is really good. I was basically embodying someone who believed that they were pregnant or were going to be pregnant really soon, even though I was actually planning to just freeze my eggs and do this in a few years' time. And I genuinely was. I was saying things to my clients like, I think I actually want a dog. I think I want a dog now, and maybe I'll have a baby in a few years. I'd let go to that extent, and even let go to the point where I was actually thinking, I can see the benefit of not having children. I was honestly, actually, and I still can, you know, see the benefit of not doing it. And I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to become a mum, but I can see both sides. There is pain and there is joy in both things. There is grief and there is joy in both things. There's always love and grief in any decision that you make. So I got very okay with either option, basically. I just trusted that what was meant for me would find me and wouldn't miss me. And I was really in a space where I actually just wasn't really thinking about pregnancy, and we were being really cautious. And this is what they always say. They say as soon as you stop trying, that's when it happens. We were deliberately having conversations about how we were going to do this in a few years' time, and we were both okay with that. So as you can imagine, like when it actually happened, it was a really, really big shock. And I was sort of thinking, why now? And I started to question divine timing and everything. And, you know, I'll do another video about my reaction, but I didn't have the like overwhelmingly happy reaction that I thought I would have. And maybe I would have had a year before when I was really trying and, you know, wanting it to happen. But because of where I was in my life at the time, I was really shocked. And it took me 12 weeks. It took me a good 12 weeks for me to actually start to enjoy the pregnancy. And I know that sounds, you know, I feel bad saying it because I think, you know, people really, really want to have a baby. And there I was feeling overwhelmed, so overwhelmed, actually depressed and very confused about my feelings. And I'm saying this because I know it's normal now, and I didn't at the time. No one told me that what I was feeling was normal. And you search on the internet looking for people who felt the same, but most of the time people are just, you know, really, really happy. But I think also pregnancy after you've had miscarriages is different. Like pregnancy after loss is kind of different. You're kind of on the fence about if you can enjoy it, if you want to enjoy it, and you know, you don't really know like what's going on. And so it was honestly, I would honestly say, unfortunately, it was the first 12 weeks was maybe the hardest time I've ever had in my life. But I'm really proud of having come through that because I was absolutely determined. I mean, becoming pregnant really does make you like a lioness in terms of like protecting your energy and just protection in general. And, you know, now I'm feeling so much better and so much more positive. And, you know, I'm really excited about this next chapter of my life because that's what it is. It's a new chapter, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I've done a lot of traveling. I'm so grateful that I've done so many things in my life. I don't have any regrets about, you know, how I've lived my life at all. And so, you know, that was another thing that gave me comfort, is that I don't have any regrets. So, you know, this is going to be another thing that I'm so grateful for. So I really wanted to say that just in case, you know, one day any of you are going through a similar thing, or maybe you did go through a similar thing in your pregnancy. And I just don't want people to feel bad about how they might feel. There's just such a huge, you know, amount of emotions that you feel with such a massive, monumentally life-changing event. And I would also say just, you know, get support, be around positive people who lift you up, who remind you that you're going to be a good mum. That was another thing that I really liked hearing along the whole journey. You know, when people would say to me, you'd be an amazing mum, that would make me feel really good and really excited about that opportunity and that possibility, and just having, you know, a positive idea of what it might look like, but at the same time having a realistic idea of what it will look like. Because as I've said, I mean, everything comes with both things. You know, having a baby is not going to make you happy. And so this is one of the things that people do, is they think a relationship will make them happy or a baby will make them happy. And yet those things bring joy, they do, but they don't make you sustainably happy. And this was one of the things that I really had to understand and accept, and really helped me to let go, because I realized that ultimately it's up to me. And actually, if I think a baby is going to make me happy, then I'm going to become one of those parents who's actually codependent on their child, and that can create another generational trauma cycle. One of the things that I'm most excited about, actually, about becoming a parent is being the parent that I didn't have, being a really emotionally available parent. And actually, I think this was one of the things that really scared me at the beginning, was I was thinking, am I there yet? Am I ready to do this? Can I be the parent that I want to be? Will I be a good mum? And all of these things that were really, you know, worrying me, because it's so important to me, given what I do as work and how I talk to people and the stories that I hear about, and how, you know, our childhood affects us so much in later life. I feel like with the awareness that I have, I really want to do this well. And I think there was definitely a bit of fear, which I suppose is normal in coming into this new role in my life. But definitely I was thinking, oh my God, can I do this? Am I there yet? Am I okay? And really the truth is that all parents do their best, and no parent gets it right all of the time. And all we can do is do our best. I'm going to trust the knowledge that I have at the time and do the best I can with it. And I'm going to trust divine timing and trust that this was meant for me now. And I think that that is a really, you know, strong message that I want to give to people, is that I really do think that you can trust that these things happen as and when they're supposed to, you know. So if it's something that you really want and it hasn't happened yet, trust timing, hand it over, talk to your spirit babies, have that connection and say, when you want to come, you can come. I remember watching a video with someone who was saying, you know, to their spirit babies, and if you don't want to come for whatever reason, then I'll love you anyway. And I thought that was so powerful and also so brave for her to do that. And you know, I also got to that point too. So this was supposed to be a shorter video, but it still ended up being longer than my normal ones. But I hope it's given you some insight and some inspiration. And if you have any questions or you'd like to book a one-to-one session, then let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.